Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hello and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1. That puts you in queue to talk to Michael. We welcome you to the show. There are several people listening and in the chat room both. Today is our Memorial Day celebration. Michael will talk a little more about this here in a minute. 274. We're getting close to a year on that. And also beginning this Friday, we're going to start with Aramaic Fridays. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, sweetie. Welcome, everybody, to the show. We're delighted that you're here. A new week and a new city for us. We are in Holiday, Florida, and enjoying the nice sunshiny day. Lots happening. We did a Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop yesterday. Have a week of workshops here. If anybody's in the Holiday, Florida area, just north of St. Petersburg, come and join us. We've got 5 nights this week, and then Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing on Saturday. And then we've actually got a week off then, and we'll be over on the other coast of Florida in Boca Raton on Sunday the 11th, and then Sunday afternoon we'll do a free Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, then Monday night, Wednesday night, Friday night, and then at the Heart Painter Studio we'll be doing Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. So we've got lots going on, getting ready for back-to-back 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again intensives. The first one is full, but there is space in the second one if you want to come and enjoy some awesome Florida weather. The middle of April, we'll actually start on the 14th of April and go through the 22nd. We've got a beautiful house on the Intercoastal Waterway with the dock. So if you're ready to crank your work up to the next level, that's an option. And, of course, Heartland is an option. And we'll be doing 65 days of intensives there this summer. Our honoring of Memorial Day and Veterans Day is about our choice to do our own inner work and to invite every mind, heart, and being on the planet to join the team that changed the world by doing your inner work. Forgiveness is inner work. It's not outer work. The culture teaches you forgiveness is outer work. You let somebody else off the hook for what's happening inside of you, which, of course, does nothing to change what's happening inside of you. If you never change the painful experiences inside of you, then, of course, sooner or later there's going to be somebody to make war on. Whether it's a verbal war or a physical war, it doesn't really matter. It's war. It's the energy that supports war on the planet. So we're looking to create a critical mass of people who are willing to face the war in themselves, willing to face all hostility and fear, and to remove hostility and fear, and come to the point where you actually live out of the active presence of love 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's your birthright. That's what we're here to support you in. If you're not familiar with how forgiveness works, there's free access to all kinds of forgiveness information on our website being www.whyagain.com, www.whyagain.com. On the right-hand side, if you kick into that website, you'll find a link that says Download Worksheets. And when you click on that link, the first 5 links will give you the whole forgiveness story. So we invite you to join the team that changed the world by learning to take responsibility for the content of your own mind And if you don't like it, change it. Let's get rid of it. Let's dump the hostility. Let's dump the fear. Let's move into human life. And, of course, what's a human life? Well, we have a really simple definition for a human life. Hold a newborn child. You know exactly what it is, and you know exactly what you're designed for. And if you're not living that, then you've got a problem. You've got a challenge. And we've got some tools for overcoming that challenge. So join us in the process, and our call-in number is 646-200-4169. If you would like to chat with Jeannie or I, if you have questions, thoughts, answers, ideas around the work, around any of the worksheets, any of the workshops that we teach. And we've got 15 or 20 different workshops that we do that each lead to how do you change the contents of your mind if it has hostility or fear in it? How do you get out of blockage of truth and own what's happening inside of you? So that's what we're here to do. And so our calling number again, 646-200-4169. Jeannie, do we have any callers or anything happening in the chat room?
No, nobody has their hand up. Dr. Tim's with us already. David's not here yet, and so welcome, Tim.
Hello, Dr. Tim. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for the welcome. I had a busy weekend and taught an EFT tapping class on Saturday and have just been staying quite busy. And I was thinking about the work for. I was reading more of Anthony DeMello's book, and I know I've mentioned that stuff to you before, but it's just a wonderful reminder about figuring out what I'm attached to and doing the 5 worksheets a day for the 40 days in Lent. Several of the worksheets have kind of echoed that. I've been tuning into different ideas that I've been so attached to that I need to release. And Anthony DeMello's writing is one of my favorites. He's got a kind of a fun, flip attitude about it. Doesn't take things very. It's not a stuffy kind of writing. And
right.
So I was reading this.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that material you gave me. It's awesome stuff.
Yeah, that book Awareness has just made me kind of lighten up a little bit and looking at my own self and the things I've been so attached to that, and what I've been discovering in the worksheet process is that it's often that's feeding the irritation that I end up having to do a worksheet about. And I'm having this irritation because I'm so attached to a certain kind of an outcome from a situation, and then when it doesn't go the way I wanted it to, then I'm irritated. So that's my offering. One of the things he talks about in the book is the idea that people get so attached to their ideas about God and their ideas about religion, and they forget to do the love piece. They forget to put themselves in awareness of what they're actually doing. And he describes the story of the people that got married in a Catholic church. And it was a very small wedding, and they were supposed to have a reception outside the church. But after the wedding, it was raining, so they asked the priest if they could have their reception in the church. And he said, well, that's you can't do that. You have to be quiet, and we have to be reverent in the church. But they finally talked him into it because they said, we're just a small group, and we're just going to have a little food and drink a little wine and sing a few songs and celebrate this small group, celebrate the sacrament of marriage. So the priest finally gave in. But they were Italian, and they did what Italians do. And even though they were a small group, they had a little food, they had a little wine, they sang a few songs, and then they had some more food and had some more wine and sang some more songs. And pretty soon there was a nice, loud party going in the church. And the pastor was pacing back and forth, he was complaining, and one of his younger priests said, "What's the matter?" And the pastor said, they're being so loud in the church. And the younger priest said, "But Father, even Jesus attended a wedding ceremony." And the pastor said, "Yeah, but they didn't have the Holy Eucharist back then." So we can get kind of caught up in our thoughts and ideas about what should be, and then end up acting outside of the energy of love, and it's not a good thing. And
that's what Yeshua called straining at a gnat and swallowing a camel. That over some nitpicky little reality that somebody has in their mind, and as you say, in the religious arena, they're willing to blast somebody, into kingdom come, because there's an idea they don't agree with or whatever, as with this priest, they're not in agreement with. Well, you have to be quiet and reverent in the church. I mean, it's aliveness, it's having fun, it's being human, and oh my goodness, how could you have such a thing? And the insanities that get programmed into our minds around those religious ideas are pretty amazing.
Well, and I would just like to offer that we have in the news these days a fabulous, horrible example of that we can all do some worksheets around, and that is the people that are being killed and injured because somebody burned some books, and somebody didn't like the fact that somebody burned some books. And because some books were burned, now it's okay to kill human beings. And it's the kind of nuttiness that we do, and if any of us, as we're watching the news or hearing it on the radio, we get upset that that's happening, my offering is we can and should pick up a worksheet and do a few worksheets on it, because that news story itself has the capacity to trigger in us all of the things that are less than love within our system. And if we're willing to get rid of them, we don't have to add to the mess. If we're not willing to get rid of them, then we'll be angry and bitter and judgmental of the people who are doing something we don't like, and in the process, we'll be just like them with our behavior.
Yeah, selling our souls, selling love to the highest bidder, and sometimes the highest bidders, the price of bread went up a nickel. Somebody can go into rage over that and literally sell their human beingness. So it's a good reminder. And, when it comes to things not moving, I was reminded again this morning in a worksheet that I did, or something in the physical world that didn't cooperate with me. The discovery that came up back, I guess it was in December, and doing a worksheet, and that when things aren't going the way I want them to go, and I go into some form of hostility or fear, of course, not only am I selling out my being, but the whole root of that is total selfishness, that, I want what I want when I want it. If it's not going to be my way, then I'm going to be, pissy about it. and the cost, of course, is our human lives. So that's, to recognize that every time we have some kind of frustration or rage around something that doesn't go our way, that the worksheet there is really about selfishness, really about cleaning up that self-centeredness that our culture has really, programmed and brainwashed into us. I was doing a worksheet this morning and had a nice little piece of the puzzle open for me, and it was a worksheet on my dad and not having liberty, being controlled, and that sort of thing. And I can remember thinking to myself, I'll show you. And it was, when I look back at it now, I realize that was a vengeance thought, I'll show you. And then several years of my life after that were controlled by that vengeance thought, I'll show you. I realized that, in terms of doing my purpose, there was a point where I was in the business world and got really tapped into what my purpose was, and walked away from the business world and went into doing this work full time. But for several years before that, even though I knew that was my purpose, I avoided it. I didn't do it. And I realized in the worksheet today that what had me creating my life unconsciously rather than consciously was that I was holding from, especially the particular worksheet I did, I was probably about 17. And I had actually wanted to buy a piece of property. I had a plan for a business, and I wanted to buy a piece of property. And of course, I couldn't sign for it. I had the money, but I couldn't sign for it. And my father refused to sign for it. And I can see how several years of my life after that were driven by the thought that I developed around that, and that is, I'll show you, and that compulsive need to gather things. So it was an interesting piece of the puzzle for me, and to realize how that kind of a vengeance thought really ran my life for several years and inhibited me from hearing what I would term today as the still small voice, the guidance that, hey, you're not here to be doing this stuff. You've got something else you're supposed to be doing. But I couldn't hear it because that had so much emotion attached to it. So it's a good piece of my puzzle today.
Yeah, I had a piece come up about my father this morning in one of the 5 worksheets, too. So it's very, I would say it's rewarding. That was the feeling I got when this came up. It was a side note on one of the worksheets I was doing about being irritated in response to an interaction with somebody over the weekend. And so I made a side note at the bottom of the worksheet, because what I've noticed is if I don't make those side notes, those great ideas I have, they fly right out of my head.
Yep.
And I talked before about how I was driving to work before the New Year, when we were doing the 5-a-day for 40 days leading up to the New Year. And I had this idea, and I thought, I need to do a worksheet on that when I get to the office. And when I got to the office, I pulled out my worksheets, and I said, I want to do a worksheet on that thought that I had and it wasn't there. I kept telling myself, it'll come to me, and I did 2 other worksheets, and in between each one I said, okay, it'll come to me, and by the 3rd worksheet, it still wasn't there, and I just sat quietly and took a breath and said, okay, it'll come to me, and I pushed through the resistance, and there the idea finally popped out. But that was a fabulous example to me of how my mind is divided against itself, and part of me wants to remember this negative thought so I can do a worksheet on it, and another part of my mind is hiding it from me, holding on to the conclusion that I can't handle the truth of that thought or what it stirs up in me, or that I need to hold on to it, so I better not do a worksheet about it to dismantle it. So it's a powerful process, and I'm glad to be on the team of people who are using it and supporting it.
Absolutely, I'm in agreement with you on that, and I've found the way that works best for me to do worksheets is I just keep a stack of blank ones under the one that I'm doing, and as I touch into something else, it's one of those little subtle thoughts peeks its head up that I can go, oh man, there's more under the surface of that one than I realized. And, I'll just fill in whatever steps. If it's maybe a punishment thought around something, then I'll just fill in that punishment thought and who the object of attention is. Or if it's a goal that I see that I held for something where I had some sort of hostility or fear. So it's a great way to do that process. So, Jean, do we have any callers? Anything happening in the chat room?
We do have a caller. Hold on just one second. And it is area code 817. You're on the air.
Hi, my name is Dell.
Jill?
Dell, D-E-L.
Welcome to the show. How can we support you?
Yes, I was wanting to find out what my guardian angel's name is. They keep trying to play tricks with me, so I'm not sure what I'm getting. I just want to confirm it.
All right, well, on Mondays and Fridays, Carol Guy does a show where that's the kind of thing that she does. Our show is a different topic, and we're working with forgiveness tools from the ancient Aramaic. So that's not the kind of thing that we do on the show, but if you tap into Carol's show on Monday morning, I think it's from 11 till noon, and then on Friday from 12 until 1. And that's her specialty, her forte.
Okay.
No, I apologize for that.
No problem.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for your call.
Yeah.
And by the way, starting on Friday, we'll have Dale Hoffman with us. It'll be a month of Aramaic Fridays. We'll be discussing the Aramaic language and culture, Dale, if you were on the show a couple of weeks ago when he was here, or if you haven't listened to it, you might want to go back and listen to that show. He's a young man that started to study with me back when he was about 15 and has become quite an Aramicist who's moving the Aramaic ideas forward in deeper and deeper ways. And so he's going to be joining us on Fridays, every Friday from 1 till 2 o'clock for the rest of the month of March once we get into that. So join us for that. Our calling number, 646-200-4169. We would love to hear your questions, your thoughts, your answers, your ideas. If there's anything you have for us.
There's a question in the chat room. They want to know, what was the name of the book by Anthony DeMello?
He has a number of them out there. The one I was reading was Awareness. Simply the word awareness.
Okay. And that's all the questions that are out there right now. There's several people just listening. If you want to, hand just went up. Awesome. Area code 941. You're on the air.
941, welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from? Somewhere in Sarasota, I assume. 941, you're on the air.
Hello, this is Marie in Florida. Hi, Jeannie. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hi,
Hey
Marie.
there, young lady. You were actually on my mind to call this morning, and I didn't get to the phone for it.
Meetings of the minds. Well, yeah. I'm listening to the introduction of your show, and I am doing the 5 worksheet a day. It's my third 40-day session, so the process is easier on me, thank God. And what came up is, like you said, and Dr. Tim said, that it helps you get in touch with something else or something subtle. My difficulty right now is to tap into something probably subtle and not too subtle, is to get in touch with the thoughts and the feelings. And I would like your help on this if you can. Hello?
Sure. Tell us about what's happening, and let's see if we can support you through it.
Okay. Well, my accountability partner, we started last, I think, was it like Thursday or Wednesday? And it was going kind of okay. My accountability partner in the 5 worksheet a day is my daughter, so a very close relative of mine. And we did some work on the phone, and she was supposed to come tonight. She committed to come tonight to my support group that I facilitate on Mondays, which has been canceled because she's working. But the issue that I do have is a recurring issue in my life. How surprising. Is she called me in tears, and she couldn't go to work because she didn't receive her money. Briefly, I just rushed to the bank and put some more money in her account, and she could make it through the weekend until she gets paid or whatever. And she calls me today. She said, I won't be there because I'm working tonight, okay. But how was your weekend? I said it was fine. Her weekend, she spent the whole weekend basically partying with her friends in another city, and she came back this morning. And what it stirred in me is like, okay, I just bent backward and rushed to the bank to help you through the day so you can fly to the next level. And the first thing you do, you go party. And, of course, I'm never going to be reimbursed, but and it stirs like a lot of turmoil in me, and it has been a recurrent situation with people close to me. And I have a little bit of a hard time tapping in exactly what I have to work on besides the fact that I'm upset.
Well, it sounds
That's
like
my question.
It sounds like the issue would probably be one of, is it not being appreciated for what you do?
No. Would be responsibility. I can't convey responsibility because if I go back to me, if somebody helps me out of a dire situation, the first thing I'll do is I'll pay back that person before partying. But this is me.
Right.
The fact that it's me doesn't mean that it's everybody. What upsets me is that the lack of awareness or consciousness that, if 3-4 days ago I was on the verge of collapse, the next thing I'll do is not go party. But then that's me. But it upsets me, so that's something within me that I cannot tap in, really. But it's been a recurrent thing. Me helping others, and then they go party and have fun, and, and I find it awkward.
So it sounds like first thing would be to take a breath and then to recognize that it doesn't upset you at all, but you have a quality of upset inside of you.
Yes.
That the circumstance brings up. When I use the language, if you remember from the codependence,
yes.
from the communication, did you hear what I think I said? If I use the language of it upsets me, I'm saying to my mind, well, mind, now you've got to show me a reality that proves that the source of my upset is outside of me. And now I'm in a dissociated state, and I can't touch into what it is. So
that's where I'm at right now. I have a quality of upset in me, and I have difficulty getting in touch with the source of it or the trigger.
Right. So then by simply instructing your mind a little differently, it's like, okay, so my daughter doesn't take responsibility when I support her like this, and when she doesn't, that brings up what in me? Is it anger? Is it rage? Is it suppressed rage? Is it being taken advantage of? So just by relanguaging, you're giving your mind permission to start to touch into the part you've dissociated from that holds this. And of course, it's one that we've processed around that happens with your brother and
yes,
with your other daughter.
Yes, and others too.
Yeah.
So being taken advantage of, but then it's this, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So
there's something deeper than that I cannot get in touch with.
Okay.
Being taken advantage of is just being taken advantage of. I guess I volunteer for this.
To me, it feels more like being used, and that's my reality.
Right. I come to you when I don't have anybody else to come to, and then it's all good and fine, and move on to the next time I can use you. But I guess I feel used, and I volunteered for that. So that's it's two people that tango together, basically.
So the thought is I'm being used. The feeling is I am. So a good way to touch into the feeling around that can just be a verbal tool where you touch into the thought. So the thought is I've been used. And so if you just let your mind run free, and if you would just do this and just say out loud, when I feel used, or pardon me, when I think I'm being used, I feel. So just let yourself run with that. When I have the thought that I'm being used, I feel, fill in the blank. Go for it. Just let it run.
It just doesn't come.
Okay. So I'm inviting you to say the words. When
I think I'm being used, I feel.
Just say it again. Just let it go. This is something you've dissociated from for a long time, so it may take a few times. So just repeat that phrase several times until feelings start to come.
When I think I'm being used, I feel a feeling. I know where I
saying
feel it, but
okay, so where's the feeling?
In my throat, like I want to cry.
Okay. So if you want to cry, then it's
It's not
sad.
a feeling. It's
Right.
a state.
Crying would usually be an indicator of sadness. So then when I think I'm being used, I feel sad?
When I think I'm being used, I feel sad. Doesn't resonate that much.
Okay. So then here's the exercise. Just let your mind run free and just say it. Just say it, say it, say it, say it until it starts to click and move. And if nothing comes up, just repeat the phrase.
Okay. Until I tap into the reality of that feeling that's underlying or sending vibration.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's
I'll
do
do
that.
that.
You want to do that right now?
Well, I know on the show it won't come. Have to do it by myself. I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead, Jeannie.
I'd like to just offer a thought. Just knowing you, Marie, and what a strong, independent woman you are. If I were you and I felt I was being used, it might also tap into feeling vulnerable or weak, because you are such a strong person. That might be something that you really try to not become.
Weakness. You got it. Yes. Yes, exactly. That's a part of me that's weak. You got it.
Okay.
Have to work on weak.
So now, weakness is another thought. When I think I'm weak, then I am sad, afraid,
upset, which is irritated.
Irritated. Okay.
Yes.
The feeling is irritation.
Myself.
Yeah. So I'd invite you to do a worksheet on yourself with that irritated, and invite you to do one on your daughter as well.
Right, but my daughter is just a trigger, because if it was only her, I can name like a series of people that got me into this pattern. So the series of people that show you that pattern, of course, they don't get you into it. You got you into it by putting it in there in the first place. They show it to you, but a worksheet on each of those people will produce a drilling down into that part of your mind that holds the root of that pattern, which is how and when you can resolve it. Okay, so I use the people to do the worksheet, so I drill down further and further where it's close to the source of this ongoing pattern that I cultivate so dearly. Okay.
And then that what it appears or what it sounds like is that pattern of I don't want to appear weak might fit in with and I don't want to appear weak and feel irritated might fit in with, well, you see, I have to be strong for everybody. I have to take care of everything for everybody. So then I become an overcompensator and I become the enabler. So I enable my daughter to go party by filling the blanks for her, and she doesn't have to be responsible for her life. And
correct.
When people are enabled, what happens is they're like, oh, this is great. Look at this is taken care of. But in truth, it oftentimes becomes a source of resentment, the enabling. While on one hand it's desired, on the other hand, it's a source of resentment because it's really taking away her power. And so the next piece of the work around that might be with her and or anyone else you've had this pattern with to do some responsibility communication. Maybe write a responsibility communication letter. If you remember in the communication, did you hear what I think I said workshop? We read that letter of Ron's where he writes to his father around his issues with alcohol and his dad. And so some responsibility communication, somewhat like that letter to your daughter, explaining what's going on for you and how in the future you're going to just let her be responsible for herself. You realize that it's weakening her by stepping in and taking away her power to fill in the blanks for her. And so you're going to start to let her be accountable for her own life and and let her be accountable for the money you put in the bank as well. Invite
Correct.
her to do that. And in that way, you're honoring her power and supporting her in recognizing that she's a powerful woman too, and she can set up her life in a way that she can take care of herself.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Now I it's all clearing that that this is my next big piece of work is working on responsibility communication. And then do you suggest that this letter, I send it to her?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And let the communication open. It's probably going to open all kinds of stuff that goes all the way back to when this pattern started with her. And it might have been when she was 3. I would suggest a similar letter, from the processing you've done around your brother. I would suggest a similar letter to your brother. And it may go back to when he was 3. And when you stepped in and took over for Mom and became the responsible one, but then resented it. And that may lead you then to some worksheets around Mom, why didn't Mom take care of her own baby? Why did I end up with responsibility for this baby? And there's where more probably the root of the resentment started is, geez, here I am, I'm 7 years of age, I should be out playing with my friends, and here I am being responsible for my mother's baby.
That's true. That's exactly how I feel when I help others. Here I am, I could use that money to do something that I really like to, and I deprive myself of and then they're the one playing, and I'm the one staying home not having fun. Right.
Good.
That's okay, awesome. Wow.
Yeah, very awesome, very powerful.
It's all stemming into childhood, right?
Well, Carl Jung says I don't know if he says it quite this poetically, but in essence what he says is from 5 to death is but a breath, and from birth to 5 is a lifetime.
That's true. Oh, wow.
In those early years, we form so many realities. You might go back and look at your 3 early memories exercise here from the intensive and the Healing Through Relationship segment in the intensive, and look and see how the 3 early memories fit with this, and then look at the When I Heal worksheet from that workshop, and just be conscious of what your commitment is, that you're doing this lovingly, gently, respectfully, to open a space for honest, responsible communication between adults. Because if I treat my child, there's an old adage that I just love to repeat, and that is that parents are not for leaning on, they're for making leaning unnecessary. And that, for our children, we do for them what they can't do for themselves, but if we do for them what they can do for themselves, we've weakened them. We've taken something away from them. And usually we do that because we had a parent who took something away from us, and so we think that's what good parenting is, as opposed to, hey, I'm here to support you when you can't do it for yourself, but anything you can do for yourself, I'm never going to pick up and do for you again. Otherwise, I will be taking away your power and I will be weakening you. I will be, in essence, saying, well, you're not strong enough, you're not capable, I'll take care of this for you. And therefore weakening rather than letting that person grow into their full strength. So, the very, very young child, we need to feed them, we need to dress them, we need to wash them, we need to do all those things. But once the child knows how to use a face cloth, you don't want to be washing the child's face. Once the child knows how to tie its shoes, it's time to stop tying the child's shoes. Otherwise, every lesson, every life lesson that comes in our growth into full creatorship and full adulthood that the child isn't allowed to learn from experience becomes a more costly lesson the further down the road they need to learn that lesson. So a lesson that a 5-year-old should be learning, when it's learned by a 20-year-old, is a really tough, brutal lesson because they've gotten themselves into deeper and deeper and deeper hot water in order to learn the lesson. They will learn the lesson. The longer it takes, the more difficult and the more costly the lesson will be. So the person who's still enabling the child who's 20, 30, 40 is prolonging the life lessons and making them much more difficult. There are sensitive periods in our growth where we are primed to learn certain things. Actually, Montessori education is all about recognizing the child's sensitive periods for learning and then providing an environment for them to teach themselves that lesson, which really makes it theirs and strengthens and empowers them. That's the whole basis of Montessori education. And as opposed to we're going to spoon-feed the child what we want to feed them when we think they should learn it. And when the child is in their sensitive period for learning a lesson, and mom or dad or somebody jumps in and says, oh, that looks so difficult for you, let me do that for you, the child moves away from the sensitive period for learning, which is the easiest time for them to learn it, and then every day that the learning of that lesson is prolonged, it's a more difficult lesson.
Wow, that's very powerful what you're saying, because as I was listening to you, I realized actually how many times I desensitized the people around me from learning an easy lesson, and of course it backfires on me, and I'm surprised with the result. Wow, that's very good. I really appreciate that so much. Thank you. My next piece of work is, I know I have a lot, but the next big one is a responsibility communication letter. I'm on it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And, absolutely delighted. And, there's probably going to be, the child who has the capability to do something, and we step in and do it for them and literally disable them. They're not cognizant. They don't cognitively know what just happened, but they know they've been dissed. They know they've been disempowered. And so as you do this, be prepared that there's probably going to be some resentment and some anger and some sadness, and it'll be an opportunity for you to learn and to teach the healing of those things as they come up in those relationships. Because when once one becomes codependent, dependent on the person who has disabled them, and basically they say, well, okay, now you're going to have to do this for me for the rest of my life. When you stop, all the resentment that goes right back to the original event, and everything since is going to come up. And so I'll just join you in holding the space and knowing that it's safe to work through those things, and it might get a little crazy for a while, but as you keep holding the space and as you keep doing your work and being the actual space of love, then you will be empowered to hold the space for that whole shift, and for each person that you've had that kind of relationship with to do their healing, the resentments, the angers, the unconsciousness around those issues, and that's what will strengthen and empower them in a new way. And you're going to get to play a little bit of John the Baptist, which will develop some new skills and some new power for you. So we'll just know that we're just holding the space for that to break through.
Thank you. I really appreciate. As you were speaking, something else came up, and the reverse actually. As I recall, I was asked to take on responsibility really early on. That now that I'm an adult, I know were adult responsibilities, and while I was undertaking them, of course, my responsibility as a child were tossed aside and were not really developed. And then, although I ask you the question, I kind of know the answer, but is it possible that I'm developing these unbalanced state of my whole being today, the part of the child that needed to be a child and has its own course of, as you say, becoming more cognitive and so on, and it's the probably dichotomy or unbalanced part of me that is trying to get even. Would that also be a possibility?
Absolutely, and that getting even part, that was the worksheet that I was sharing. I don't know if you're on the first part of the show, but a worksheet that I did around my dad, and that one of my vengeance thought toward him, my punishment thought toward him was, I'll show you. And I realized in my worksheet this morning around that I'll show you thought ran my life for many years and inhibited me from being in alignment with my purpose. That I shut my purpose down in order to live in the thought of I'll show you. So that vengeance stuff, that can be very costly. And the other thing that might come up in this is that those childhood times, you might just have to take some time to learn to play and have more fun.
Right. Well, that's what comes up for me, like, very often. I'm like, play? What do you mean play? But that's been a recurrent, not thought, but a feeling. I don't know if a play is a feeling, but yeah, probably a thought that comes to me more over time as I'm doing this work, and I'm looking at it like, what do you mean play? It's for children. But yeah, it's all interconnected. Wow. Okay. My next web of bazillion worksheets to do, but I'm glad to do them. This time is what I've observed is that it's easier for me to get in touch with the deeper part. And if I compare to the last 40-day session that I did where I experienced mostly physical illness or discomfort, this time is more in touch with the feeling part. The first time was more thought, second time physical, and now it's more the feeling, and it's good. I'm getting there. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, maybe over the next few weeks while we're going to be around the area, we'll have to get together sometime and play.
Okay. Voting sounds good. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Dr. Tim.
One of the things I was thinking about doing, before you go, Marie?
Yes?
One of the things I was thinking about doing, apparently there's a big Egyptian exhibit down at the St. Petersburg Museum or something like that. I was going to check into that and maybe one day make a trip down there. So maybe one day later this week you can drive up if you've got the space and we can go play at the museum, maybe do dinner in the movie or lunch in the movie or something like that.
Oh, I'll check on that. Absolutely. That would be awesome, fun, fabulous. I'll check it and I'll email you.
All right, lots of love. Take care. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Awesome catch, Jeannie. That was nice work. I just clicked right in.
Thanks.
I sure appreciate the quality of work you do with people, Jeannie. It's awesome.
Thank you. And Nene's in the chat room, and she said that it resonated for her, so she's going to go do her 2040th worksheet, and said she's holding the space, and thank you for being willing to go through that, Marie. And we have two more callers. First one is area code 810. You're on the air.
Hi, Michael and Jeannie.
Hey, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Who is speaking?
Adam. This is Adam.
Hi, Adam.
Hello.
How are things up in Michigan? Cold, probably.
Yes, they are cold and endlessly interesting. That's for sure. So, yeah, I really appreciate
it. From that last round of work we did a week ago, I guess it was about 10 days ago. How did that unfold? How did that piece of work that you did around that fit? Where is it at today?
Still working on it. Just went through sort of a healing crisis where the hopelessness kind of peaked and experiencing some really deep depression, and still keeping the commitment of 6+ worksheets a day. And Rex has been really supportive. He led me through a still point breathing session, which was incredibly powerful. And I'm listening to the Healing Through Relationships, which has been very helpful, and then your radio show is exceptionally helpful, and planning to do the 3 earliest memories exercise more formally. I did it in my head, but I was listening to the Healing Through Relationships, but just to get more formal about it. And I've been listening to the worksheet programs, which are awesome. The radio shows that you have on the worksheet section. And, it's been really helpful because I realized, I've been doing a bunch of worksheets, and I'm not sure if I'm doing them right. And I'm, doing worksheets, I'm not doing it right, but I'm still not sure if I'm doing it in the most optimal manner.
Sounds like all things moving forward. That's fabulous. And it's like every other skill. one of the things we can rest assured that I'll bet you today Tiger Woods is out on a golf course somewhere swinging a golf club. And many people say, well, he's an expert. Why would he be needing to do that? It's like, well, that's why he's an expert. And so it is a practice. And as you open different parts of your mind, and when you realize that, you're not just working on your own lifetime, you're working on the generations, the genetics and the thoughts and the feelings of 1,000 generations, there are going to be pieces and parts of you with all kinds of unknown qualities that you consider perhaps undesirable that are going to come up, and then just to recognize that when they come up and they're in your face, that if you stay on track, stay connected, keep doing your work, those things will move away. Sometimes they convince us that they're now a permanent condition in our minds, and there's a story of the king and the kingdom, and he was alternately depressed and elated, and he offered half of his kingdom to someone who could make him happy when he was sad and sad when he was happy. And the person who got half the kingdom was the person who gave him a coin that said, this too will pass. And so to remember that those healing processes, when you're moving through the natural state of a human being, is this awesome active presence of love. And if we're processing through 1,000 generations of anger turned inward, which is in essence depression, and depression being an adult form of temper tantrum, that it's going to take time, that it's a process to breathe and to be with that and to get to the point where you recognize that you're the one who is opening the space for all your generations to be done with that dynamic. And it's an awesome gift to give your bloodline.
Yes. Thank you. It's nice to be encouraged in this work because there's a lot to process right now.
So, is there anything in particular today that we can support you with?
Sure. That would be wonderful. My mom created space for me to have a couple of days just to work on myself, and my sister let me stay at her place, and it was really great. And I found myself both, doing the work and distracting myself in a big way, and going through like the shame of the distraction and whatnot. And one way I like to distract myself is through organizing things, and so I spent a good portion of a day trying to find this right shelf to organize this section of my sister's dining room where she keeps like jars and other things. And at the end of it, I just realized like, wow, this space was created for me to really go deep inside of myself and even to relax, right? And I used all this time sort of obsessing over this project. And then, and through doing this, I also cut my timing short, and my sister had asked me to pick her up from the airport because she went to go visit my brother. And, I was trying to finish everything before I went, and so I was running late, which I know is a big trigger for my sister. And so I felt this huge wave of just guilt, shame, and fear come over me, knowing that I had talked to my sister on the way to the airport and let her know I was running late, and and she was upset, and I was just canceling a bunch of goals and looking into like, wow, I got huge stuff coming up. This goes back to other situations, and I kind of tapped into how, wanting my father to love and approve of me and not meeting his expectations, and or at least feeling like I wasn't, and specifically a time when he'd asked me to get him a tool, and his garage was very disorganized, and I wouldn't know where the tool was, and he would get very angry with me for not being able to get him the tool, and speak to me kind of harshly. And when I
Are you breathing?
No, I wasn't.
Notice how harshly you treat yourself when you don't do things perfectly like he wanted you to. So it might be time to cancel that goal, to collapse that one and breathe. And recognize that as you breathe and keep your breath moving, that, genetically, if you think about a tuning fork, if I have a middle C tuning fork and I put it in front of another tuning fork, and the first one I just hit on a desk so it's vibrating, the second tuning fork is going to pick up and absorb the energy of the primary, the first one. And so recognizing that coming out of the same genetics as your dad was this genetic tuning fork for anger, and when Dad would see the opportunity to pour that energy out of himself. So if you just imagine that Dad is a tuning fork and he's pouring out all this rage, and you have a mini tuning fork for rage, that you just are sucking that energy in and absorbing it, and it becomes part of what is re-radiated under the specific circumstances. And that's where the forgiveness, that's where your 77 times 70 worksheet issues come from, is those genetic things that need to be disassembled, that need to be taken apart and forgiven in you until you get to the point where you've emptied your tuning fork, so to speak, of all the rage from all the times Dad just poured out that energy on you and you absorbed it. That you're forgiving, you're removing those episodes of energetic absorption in yourself so that you can get conscious to move through them. And it sounds like one of the ways that you avoided feeling, looking at, and dealing with that is by distracting yourself. And then, what did Dad do with his anger? He shamed you. He guilted you. You bought it. Same tuning fork, so you bought the shame. You bought the guilt. And these are all energetic dynamics that now you want to, through the breath, through the forgiveness process, to be draining out of you and standing in a place of total self-acceptance, self-nurturing, and self-support, even when you don't do it perfectly. Like, oh, here I am. I'm goofing off again. But you know something? I'm going to just, instead of doing what my power person patterned, abusing myself over it, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to do a worksheet on this and let go of the need to abuse myself over not doing it perfectly like Dad wanted. And I'm going to just embrace myself in love and caring and nurturing and support. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go run a bathtub of hot water with some, essential oils in it, and I'm just going to breathe and take care of myself for an hour. Instead of, oh, look how bad, look how evil, look how, all that stuff that we absorb from a power person. And, of course, your power person came by it honestly from his power person, and on and on and on it goes. And probably it's energy that you've re-radiated to others in your life, perhaps your own child, perhaps your spouse. And when we resonate those brain cells in you, then you become the re-radiator. You follow that's the power person dynamic of doing what you dislike your power person doing the most. And so as you drain that energy out and put something new in, approval. Gee, honey, you're not doing this just the way I'd want you to do, and I cherish you. I hold you in my heart, and I bless you. And there's some frustration coming up in me that I need some support and healing. Here I am to support you. And as you do that, you change the whole family dynamic. You open a space. And so if it's appropriate, we could carry this conversation on tomorrow, but we're down to about the last 5 seconds, so we need to close the show out. And, if you've got the space, give us a shout back tomorrow. Blessings. And everybody have the best year yet of your eternal life. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie, who present that internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.
Evolving continuously.